Good afternoon and welcome to today's Learning Series webinar. I'm Ralph Tiergart with AHOA. I lead education and professional development, and we're glad you're here today. We're going to be talking today about a topic, one of my favorites, and that is about the world of revenue. We all know that revenue drives profitability, and sales, of course, drives revenue. And so today we're delighted to have Giacaruso Enterprises, represented by Melanie Calcagno, who will introduce herself in a moment. And we're going to have a phenomenal opportunity to hear about the wonderful world of corporate business and how you get more of it through being in the right kinds of LNR and CNR programs. You're going to have lots of questions, I'm certain of that. So on your screen, please locate the area of your own control panel where it's labeled questions. When you click that, go ahead and type your question in and type it away. And when we get toward the end of the webinar, we're going to address as many questions as we can get to. So don't be bashful. Let us know what you think. As well, when the webinar concludes, please do us a favor and stay online. There's a quick survey at the end, and we'd love to get your thoughts. So thanks for that. And without further ado, what I'd like to do is let Melanie introduce herself and talk to you about the wonderful world of sales.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for spending some time with us. Calcagno, Vice President at Giacaruso Enterprises. Some of you may know me, some of you may not. Some of you may have met me previously or maybe at one of the regionals or potentially at a town hall. We've been silver partners with AHOA for many years, so we're very grateful for this opportunity to spend time together. I've been with Giacaruso a little over 8 years now. I did get my start in the industry when I was just 19 years old. I worked as a housekeeping supervisor, so I worked my way up through the ropes and know just a little bit about the hotel industry. I thought that I was just getting a summer job to pay for pizza, but I decided to stick around. So I'm here today to talk to you about LNR and CNR business and how we can implement smart tactics to boost your revenue. So when we dive into this topic, what are LNRs and CNRs? So before we get into strategies, let's answer that question. LNRs and CNRs are agreements between hotels and corporate clients that offer lower than average rates for rooms, for meeting space, for event spaces, for a period of time. You may be curious about those two and how they differ. That's really a question that we get asked, and it's a great question. Both are agreements that offer discounted rates over a period of time. So LNR stands for local negotiated rates, which are established between a hotel and a local business. CNR rates are corporate negotiated rates that are agreed upon by a hotel in a national or an international piece of business. So CNRs can be applicable to a wider range of business. Think about with a chain or a brand rather than a specific hotel. So those rates can vary from property to property, but they can still help you increase your revenue, your occupancy, your profitability, and give you a competitive edge in the hospitality market. But how do you know if those LNR and CNRs are working well for you and for your clients? Because it has to be beneficial for both. So there are some factors that you should consider when you're reviewing your LNRs and your CNRs. The first is availability. You want to make sure that your LNRs and CNRs are generating enough business for you, but not too much that you lose out on opportunities that could also possibly compromise your service quality. You also want to pay attention to capacity. You want to make sure that the LNRs and CNRs are aligned with your capacity and inventory, and that you have enough flexibility to offer and cater to your clients that have different needs and different preferences, because they're not all the same. That's kind of like when you don't want to sell out on a Tuesday night just because you offered one contract to one client. Profitability is also extremely important. You want to make sure that your LNRs and your CNRs are profitable for you, and that you're not undercharging your clients or overcharging your corporate clients. In addition, we want to pay attention to sustainability. You want to make sure that your LNRs and your CNRs are suitable for you and your clients, and that they reflect your brand identity and values. We've all taken on that piece of business that we regret and we're like, man, why did I sign this? And you're locked into it after. So doing your due diligence beforehand is extremely important. So you already have a few LNRs and CNRs at your property, but you're not quite sure if they truly fit within your needs. So how do you decide that? How do you figure that out? You assess, you review, and you adjust. By taking a look at what you already have in the hotel, you can determine if your current partnerships are working for you and if you need to make changes to the ones that are not. This cover any need areas to help you make better and more informed decisions in the future. When we're talking about assessing, right, collecting that data, you're looking at your current position. So what are your goals for the hotel and for the LNR and the CNRs that you're working with right now? When you do that, it'll give you a clear picture of what you already have, what you need, and what adjustments you may need to make in order to bridge the gap for the in-between. So you're going to want to run some reports to find out what your overall current occupancy is, your average daily rate, your revenue per availability or your RevPAR, and write those down. So grab your budget, pull your goals for your occupancy, your ADR, and your revenue, and write all that down, right? Then look at your current metrics and do they line up with your goals that you currently have, and what needs to change in order for you to be successful. Compile the list of the LNRs and CNRs that you currently have in your hotel and list out all the pertinent information. Look at the ADR, the occupancy for those accounts, and compare the two. So you also want to check on the seasonality, the typical check-in and check-out dates for those accounts, whether they stay over the weekends or the weekdays, the holidays, or even hot dates. So they may not be lining up with what it is that you need for your hotel. So as you're analyzing those findings, take a close look at them to get an idea of what they're actually bringing to your hotel. Do the accounts ADR affect my goal? If the rate paid is above your ADR goal for the hotel, you're probably in a good place. If not, what needs to change? Would you separate from your weekend or weekday business? Do they need some rate help? Would you set up a seasonal rate that more accurately fits your needs or the client's travel patterns? Determine what you need in order to make a difference in this account and make a note of that. Second, again, how does the account's travel pattern affect your goal? Is the client staying consistently through the year, or are they only staying on days that you already have high demand for? Do they help cover shoulder nights or need dates, or is it just the dates selling out? These are all really important questions to ask yourself when you're analyzing these accounts. And then determine where each one falls in what category and make notes of that. Also, think about, are there concessions that you're offering, and are they worth the benefits that this account brings to your hotel? Sometimes a lower rated account that has a low ADR may actually benefit the property by keeping things as is because they're picking up those shoulder nights, or they're booking during your slowest season. So keeping that business in the hotel might actually be a win for you. If the account is consistently staying with a low ADR, but it's during your high peak season, maybe not. You can always adjust and make different decisions once you've determined what changes need to be made. So if a partnership is no longer effective, you just got to explain that to the client and find ways to end things amicably. You can work together in the future should things change within their budget or your needs change. If there's just a rate increase that's needed, that's a simple conversation. You just have to be clear in your expectations with that client, but be mindful of their needs. Hey, Sally, you've been for over a year. We really value your partnership. This year, I'd like to discuss a rate increase with you so that we can both come to a win-win situation in order for you to continue to utilize the hotel. Just always be clear in your expectations, because most accounts are prepared for a 3 to 5% increase every year. In some cases, more may be needed, and they know that. If it's a true loyal account to your hotel, just reasoning with them and letting them know the value that they bring for you or that they're valued is going to make them want to continue to work with you. When you're compromising and finding ways to make things work well for the both of you, it's a long-lasting, successful path to partnership. Always end your meetings when you're talking to clients about negotiations by letting them know how valued they are to them, thanking them for their continued business, and telling them that you look forward to working with them in the future. Whenever you're asking anybody for more money, you always have to tell them that they're valued and that they're appreciated. It's extremely important to do that because you want to keep them there with you in the hotel. And you don't know, it's difficult to have those conversations because you never want somebody to think that you're just after them for money, but trust me, they expect it. They expect that 3 to 5% increase every single year. In addition, when you're going through these negotiations or you decide that there's someone there that you may need to replace or you're looking for new business, you have to have a plan of action or a plan of attack for new business. So there's a lot of strategies when it comes to that. It can be difficult to even know where to start, right? That's hard. Understanding and utilizing various sources that are available to help you can make it go so much smoother and not make it feel like such a daunting process. So first, take a look at your local market. There's got to be untapped accounts that are in your backyard, and reach out to them. The first step is just to introduce yourself, right? You need to ask what their needs are. Find out who they work with in the area. Could they have, other customers or contractors that could be potential clients as well? It's as simple as stopping in, bringing some little goodies with you and just saying, hey, my name is Melanie. I'm at XYZ Hotel. Just wanted to stop in and introduce myself and tell you a little bit about my property. You can attend any networking events that are available to you. Know who's there, who's working in the area. And just building good relationships with people in the market can result in direct business, referrals for accounts, and getting to know people that you didn't even know existed. You want to make sure that you meet your local chamber, your CVB. They have early access to information, projects, people that are coming into the area. In the town that I live in, I recently was talking to some people that are on our city council and our local CVB, and I found out about a huge project and a new company that's coming into the area just by chance, just because I sat down and I was at an event with them. And I know some local hoteliers in my market, so I passed on the information. It's a really great way to network. They are wonderful resources for potential and upcoming business, and they love when you bring them coffee and donuts. They really do. The more people that you know, the more people are going to get to know you, and building a friendly reputation with your neighbors will keep you top of mind when the subject of a hotel comes up in future conversation. It truly is about who you know when it comes to our industry and what that looks like. So another way of finding business is to make sure that you use all of the people and the tools and the resources that are available to you. There's a lot of brand contacts out there, your area directors, your DFOs, request reports. They have a lot of resources. They have a lot of, corporate travel account lists. You pay franchise fees. So use them to find the right business for your hotel. Work with global sales, connect with them, and make sure that you're getting all of the information about those CNRs that we mentioned earlier. They oversee those corporate accounts that are traveling in your market. So you want to familiarize yourself with their clients. Ask for the travel patterns and the typical rate ranges to determine if these accounts will be a good fit for what you need. In addition, building those relationships will also help you like I mentioned, during RFP season, because you'll know the account managers well that are overseeing those when you're writing those compelling business cases, excuse me. There's also tools like Construct Connect, Agency 360, Zoom Info, Calibri Labs. Those are excellent ways to uncover potential business in your area. News articles, journals, you can set Google alerts with your hotel information, and you can put in things like new construction, grand opening, and that'll keep you informed when like corporate partners are moving into your area, because those Google alerts will pop up for you as that's happening. Some of those tools do require that you pay a fee. So check with your brand contact first to ask if there's any initiatives, if you can access them for free or if there's a discount. If it isn't free, or if there isn't a discount, reach out to see if there's a demo, because there's sometimes they'll give you a demo that'll give you some sample information for your market before you jump in to see if it's something that might be valuable to you. And then of course, while you're looking for new CNR businesses, make sure that you know your strengths, right? Learn as much as you can about your competitive set. Every hotel has 4 walls and a bed, but get familiar with the hotels that are in your market. What do they offer? What do they not offer? Uncover the accounts that are staying with your competitors. Would these accounts even be a good fit for your property? What can you provide to these accounts that your competitor cannot? Do you know that? You might not, but make sure that you know that you tour them, that you find out that information so that you can sell, potentially knowing what sets you apart from them, because leveraging your competitive advantages and your value proposition will really help you attract new clients. And then what amenities are you willing to provide to your new accounts? This could be something as simple as a welcome gift. Maybe you want to do a complimentary room night to whoever the decision maker is to experience the hotel firsthand, or a ticket to unique in your area. Creating that unique and memorable experience is a great way to retain clients. And ask questions when you're connecting with a client so that you can really cater your story to their needs. There's no point in explaining to a hotel that has a brand new gorgeous indoor pool, and showing them around to a traveler that's coming in and he's going to be working for 16 hours and he'll never utilize the pool. Make sure you know what that client truly cares about so that you can make the solution specific to what their needs are, and get comfortable with explaining all the great things about your property so that you know what additional steps you are willing to take in order to offer your property and make sure that you're winning the business. So now that you've got things kind of moving in the right direction and you've uncovered some good accounts potentially, or even some great accounts, your current accounts are producing, your revenue is up because you looked at everything, and you made some decisions about which accounts you need, which ones you're on, where you want to go, and then the phone rings. Suddenly, things are no longer looking good. Your favorite contact at your top account calls to let you know that they've decided to make a change and they're no longer using your hotel. It happens. Companies leave cities, they leave projects, mistakes are made, requirements change, and even with your best efforts, the loss of a top account is unavoidable. So what do? You figure out why. Knowing the reason for the loss of an account at your hotel and understanding all of it and the future impacts that it's going to have on your property or the market as a whole is extremely important to help determine your plan of action. If the company is leaving the market, how will it change your current occupancy and ADR? You need to know that. If it was about something that, like a mistake was made at the hotel, will it affect your brand? Will it affect your reputation? What steps can you do to minimize the damage? Switch hotels, but staying in town, and it displaced rooms. Why? What changed? Understanding why a company leaves is just as important as the actions that you're going to take to replace it, because then you can understand what to do to mitigate some of those losses in the future. Some of the things that you can do to quickly replace or to try to help replace that business is to always keep your pipeline full of clients. Be proactive in finding upcoming projects, reviewing those business journals, making sure that you have any news articles or insight about, what's happening in your city, always on those alerts. Do it early and often. It's too late if you're a week out and you need to replace that business. So having a good handle on what's happening for the next couple of years gives you a leg up when a loss is incurred. A long-term construction project could turn into a corporate LNR really quickly if you've already done your homework and you've got that information on hand. And when the project is complete and the business moves on to a new location, you can reconnect with current clients, existing clients, clients that can potentially give you referrals, any needs that you possibly couldn't have accommodated before because you had that larger client in-house, anything like that. And it's really easy to jump in, write a compelling proposal, brag about what you have to offer, showing your value, that competitive advantage because you've already done your homework on your competitors, and consider offering some of those special amenities that you have in your hotel in order to entice that business to come over so that you can create a new long-lasting partnership. So after you've uncovered this new business, the opportunities, you want to be sure that you're the top choice for all of these potential new clients that you're bringing in. So what can you do to win more LNR, CNR, and potential RFP proposals? You can always make sure that you are communicating with your potential clients regularly and effectively. It's really easy to get lost once you have a contract signed. So it's signed, you're there, you've set up the rate code, they're booking, everything is great. But that's kind of like dating, and you started dating, you're in the honeymoon phase, everything's great, and then you've been together for a while, and it's like, I don't gotta send flowers anymore. But you do. Making sure that the decision makers are constantly happy, consistently happy, you're regularly communicating, you're sending little birthday cards or, checking in with them. Always communicating regularly and effectively is important. Also, making sure that you're open to and listening to their feedback for any concerns. There's always things that, so making sure that, you're still providing all the right things that they need, that you have simple fixes if something goes wrong, and listening so that you have a chance to fix any issues that come up are extremely important. Negotiating in a way that's fair to both you and them should something change or, they have different interests in mind. And then, of course, being transparent and honest and only offering what you can provide. Never overpromise and underdeliver. That will establish a really strong rapport over time so that they know that they can trust you, and you'll always be the first person that they reach out to when they have additional needs. So managing all those current accounts, uncovering new business opportunities, remembering that we're the hotel that they trust. We've built some of this base business, LNR and CNR, looking at those techniques. You will increase your revenue while making the best decisions for your hotel. If you're interested in any more tips, or you need some help, or you're curious about how Jack Russo can help you with your LNR or CNR tactics, of course, you can always reach out to us for help. We are here and available at any point, to help. My contact information is here on the screen, but just remember, there's, always communicate with your potential clients regularly and effectively. That's the easiest way to get to know them. Connect with those clients, pay attention to what their needs are, renegotiate when you need to, keep your pipeline full, and of course, call us if you need any help. We are always here for any assistance. You can use the QR code on the screen or take a picture of my information. But again, thank you for having us here today. And if you have any questions, I'm always here to assist.
Hi, Melanie, I'm back.
Hi, Ralph.
I thought we'd spend a little bit of time and talk a little bit about what you said. So one of the hardest things about sales is, like you said, knowing where to start. And I know that you gave, What are some, do you have any good examples or stories of people that you've worked with before that, really started to take advantage and to benefit from something like making a more aggressive effort at reaching out and networking, and how simple something as beginning a networking effort can work?
Yeah, so there was a property at Hampton Inn, and the owner just didn't have any sales effort at all. And his property did really well for a long time. I mean, the phones rang, the demand kept coming in. He had, some brand RFPs, and then it stopped. It just went away. And so he reached out, and he wasn't quite sure if he needed like sales support or services or anything like that. And he said, I'm just not sure about any of that yet. And he's like, but I would like to do some things on my own. Can you just give me some guidance? And I said, sure. I said, if it doesn't work, give me a call back, we'll help you out. And I said, but what you need to do, in the interim is go out in the market, take some of your flyers, your rack cards, whatever you have. You just go knock on every door, make sure that everybody knows that you're there, reach out to your revenue manager, try to put together some promos, some packages, let everybody know that you're in the market, because if no one knows that you're there, they're not consistently booking. And we all know, or we're aware on websites, only push in so much business. And then your OTAs push in so much business, but then you're paying a huge percentage to those. So you have to have some kind of a sales effort. And just because you've never had it, or because the phones ring, at some point, what do you do if they don't? What happens then? So he decided to go with a combination of both us helping and him helping himself. But we consistently reached out. Well, he had one account in his market that was a large oil and gas company that was headquartered there. And he kept saying, they're not going to use us. They're not going to use us. They're not going to use us. They like, another hotel, a competitor hotel across the street. I said, well, we still have to go push. We still have to go say hi. We still have to go talk to them. So we did. We set up a strategy to go and meet with them, He said, they keep telling me no. They keep telling me no. So just ask a simple question. Should the hotel that you're currently using ever fail you in service or come to a sold out situation, will you consider us as backup? And, the lady either said yes because she wanted him out of the office, or because she really said, yes, that's a great question. So he started asking that question to people who said, I've already got a hotel, I'm happy here. Sure enough, he landed 3 large accounts in his market because we were asking that question and proactively prospecting. And he was $30 behind the comp set when he started. And he started to consistently become #1 on his Starport, and it took time. This didn't happen overnight, but it's because he had a proactive push in his sales. He got to remove these really low-rated accounts that he had that, that hadn't been increased in years. And even if you just renegotiated, $3 or $4 per year, it increases your ADR. He got to take less CLC business. He got to push out some of those OTAs. So it's really just having the conversations and making sure that you're visible. And if you're comfortable doing that, go do it. If you're not, let someone like us help.
Ties to another question that I'm seeing, that is, I don't have a salesperson. Who is the best person to make sales calls if you don't have a salesperson?
Jack Russo. Give us a call. No, it depends on personality, right? If you have someone at the hotel that has a personality, that is excited about meeting people, that is not nervous about being told no. Difficult to go out and make sales calls if you're afraid of getting kicked out of a building, if you're afraid of being, you pick up the phone and they're like, no. Sales are hard. They're not easy, right? So you've got to be able to go in, talk to somebody, drop off information. It depends. Does your AGM have that personality? Do you as an owner have that personality? Does your general manager? If someone there has that personality, they can do it. If you need us in the short term to help coach somebody to do that, we can help too. If there's no one there that can do that, we can help, but it just depends on the person. Do you have an outgoing person who can go knock on doors and be okay with somebody saying no? Because it takes a few no's before you get to a yes.
Okay, I see another one. This is interesting. It has to do with, I think the gist of the question is somebody who's uncomfortable writing sales pitchy kind of letters, everybody's talking about AI these days. Can you actually use AI to do sales prospecting or reach possible clients that you may not otherwise be able to get to?
Ralph, I've never responded to one of your emails using AI, I promise. Yes, you actually can. So AI can actually help in a lot of ways. It analyzes vast amounts of data to identify potential clients who are a good fit for your hotel or your business, and responding even to traditional outreach methods. ChatGPT is like your friend, so you can have conversations with it. You can say, help me craft an email to my customer saying X and using these amenities about my hotel. You can go in and pop in some of that information. Depending on how you speak, don't use AI to formulate something that doesn't sound like you. So make sure you put in prompts when it generates something for you and say, keep it professional, but less stuffy, things like that. Bing's going to have more information about like your market insights, company information, data driven. But I'm going to stop there because we do have some really cool stuff coming out very soon, which will push some more information out for you guys later about AI. So yes, the answer is yes, it can absolutely help you.
All right, well, that's awesome. Well, I'm not seeing any additional questions today, but I just will close with thanking you for sharing these tips on direct sales. The one small anecdote, and it kind of goes back to a prior question, is that, I recall a hotel we had at one point in time that had the most outgoing personality at the front desk, and said, there's a bunch of guys doing a bridge construction project in town. You want me to run over and get in my truck and go see where they're staying and see if we can get them to move? And lo and behold, they did. So I guess the message here is, the art of sales is not being afraid just to go talk to people and ask them to give you a try. So thank you for giving us some tips today. We appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you again on the AHOA Learning Webinar Series. Thanks so much. Thanks everybody for joining us today, and we hope to see you again soon.